When Chris and Debra Hedgcorth married, they loved to party. But when they were introduced to methamphetamines, their party life carried over into their everyday life. Debra, a waitress and busy housewife, loved the energy it gave her.
And I thought, I can organize everything in the house and I can be everywhere all at once, it seemed.
I felt like I could conquer the world. And I could do meth and I could work for, a couple days nonstop and get a lot done at the very first.
But when the meth wore off, it started affecting their marriage.
It was a disaster. When we had the dope, things were pretty mellow, but when it ran out, it was bad.
You see kids who have tantrums and they cry and they huddle in the corner. That's how I expressed myself. And I was a screamer. And I would build Chris up because I loved him. And then within maybe 2 minutes, I could tear him down to nothing. And that was the cycle that I took all the time.
It was like a roller coaster up and down on very highs and very lows. There would be moments when we'd be getting along really well and it'd be really low and we'd be cussing each other and we'd be out, I'd be out the door or she'd be out the door or whatever it was. She'd be calling the cops on me.
Debra felt like she couldn't take it anymore. Then memories of her childhood and going to church made her feel better.
When I was 9 years old, I would go to church. I was bussed in. The bus would come by and pick me up. So I took off to First Christian Church, and in children's church, we sang songs that were pretty and people smelled good. And, it was just a good place to be. It felt safe.
During a separation from Chris, Debra cried out to God for help.
And I poured out my heart to him, and I accepted the fact that it was me that was making this hard. I was rejecting him. I was rejecting his ways. I was trying to make life about me. And when I finally I didn't say that perfect prayer of salvation, but I meant every piece of that prayer of salvation, because it was all about me saying, I'm done being who I am, and I'm ready to be everything you tell me I am, and I'll believe you.
The first thing she did was call Chris.
I thought she was nuts. I didn't want anything to do with the Lord. I was so dead to that. It's like, if you're going to do that, I'm done with it,
Right off the bat, I found that the person that I wanted to love and trust the most was saying, I don't want anything to do with this new you. And, but it didn't shake me, because I thought, he just needs to know Jesus. So I just kept trying to tell him in a different way.
Debra was persistent, and about a year later, Chris visited her church. At the end of the service, he went down the aisle to pray.
The day that he went forward, I knew that it was real. He was giving up. He was giving up everything, and he was going to surrender, and I knew it.
I just told him, whatever you want, Lord, I'll do it. I just gave up, and I made him Lord at that moment. And man, if there's anything he did that day, he changed me. He forgave me. I knew at that moment that I was forgiven, and I hadn't crossed that line, that it was going to be okay.
While Debra got off meth within 2 weeks of coming to the Lord, it took Chris about 9 months to break free. They soon started rebuilding their marriage.
For a while, Chris and I called each other my ex-husband and my ex-wife when we would talk about our past, because that's what it seemed like. It was a completely different person. Me before Christ, the old Debra, was self-seeking, self-serving. Every day that I woke up, I thought immediately of the things that I needed to do to get what I wanted.
I think about the old Chris, I was depressed. Wow, I was so down, and so I'd reached a point where I thought, man, I'm going to be like this my whole life, and this is bad. And I was full of hatred towards my wife. The new Chris understands the Lord's forgiveness.
It's been over 10 years since Chris and Debra got off meth, and today, they live a life they never dreamed of with their 2 daughters.
We have a union in Christ first, and then a union together. There's nothing better than that. And we're raising our kids to know Christ, a relationship. That's the biggest blessing of my life. And it is never too late. You've not done the worst thing in the world. And if you've done the worst thing that anybody on the face of this earth has done, it's still not too much for Jesus' blood to wash over you and forgive you. It's never too late.